What's up YouTube, it's your boy Nash here, welcome back to the channel, and today I have another top 10 for you guys. Now as you guys know, I did a top 10 greatest NXT UK Heritage Cup Championship matches of all time. I did one for the NXT UK Tag Team titles, I did one for the women's title. Now I'm going to be doing the top 10 for the NXT UK title. Now, obviously, this is paying homage to the legacy of NXT UK that dates all the way back to 2017, which is crazy, right? It's crazy. It's crazy, but we've had some incredible matches that involved the NXT UK title, which included these matches, these 10 that I have chosen based on what I've seen and just how good they were. You know, they were just absolutely immaculate. But the question is, which ones did make the 10? We will see, but hopefully you guys are ready for this top 10 video. If you guys are and you guys want to see, more top 10 videos in the future, make sure you guys subscribe to the channel, smash that thumbs up button, turn on the notification bell. And as always, make sure you guys follow me on all of my social media. Links will be in the description below, as will the info to my fan mail, and will also be in the description as well. Let's kick this off with number 10, Pete Dunne versus Jordan Devlin, November 28th, 2018. I believe this was at the Download Festival. A very crazy matchup. This was probably by far one of Pete Dunne's most challenging opponents in his run as NXT UK champion. And one thing that boggled my mind was the fact that Jordan Devlin kept staking claim to that. Excuse me. He kept staking claim to being the rightful NXT UK champion, and so Johnny Saint and Sid Scala made the announcement that he was going to challenge Pete Dunne for the NXT UK title, and Pete Dunne ended up just delivering a beatdown on the Irish Ace. And Jordan Devlin has had a couple of other NXT UK title matches. Excuse me. Since then, but that was just it. That match right there was what made Jordan Devlin the man that we see now. And the man that we see now is not one to trifle with. I can tell you that right now, but this one definitely deserved to be in the number 10 spot. There was another one that came up, but I figured this one would have been a much more better choice, simply because of the fact that excuse me, just because of the fact that when it came to the NXT UK title, there have only been 4 champions in NXT UK. Tyler Bate, Pete Dunne, or I guess Butch, Walter or Gunther, and Ilya Dragonov. In fact, truth be told, most of the matches that are in this top 10 are all Pete Dunne and Walter. The others are Tyler Bate and Ilya Dragonov. But you're probably wondering, what are those matches? Well, you'll have to find out and see. But this one definitely in the number 10. I think there were reporters. There were a lot of reporters that gave this matchup, I think, 3 stars overall, which actually was not too bad. But we do have to move on to number 9, which is Walter versus Tommaso Champa at NXT Takeover Stand and Deliver last year. Actually, it's been about a year or so. and the crazy thing about this match is that there have only been a few men that were on NXT that challenged for the NXT UK title. Both members of DIY, Johnny Gargano and Tommaso Ciampa, were two of them. I know that Roderick Strong challenged for the title. I believe Adam Cole as well challenged as well. I know that Ricochet challenged for the title as well, and I think Braun Breaker challenged as well, because it was a title unification match this past weekend at Worlds Collide. But this one was kind of unique because of Ciampa's long history of neck problems, and Gunther knew about that. He knew of the neck problems that Ciampa had over the years, and he was able to exploit that and use that to his advantage. And that was what gave Gunther the match against Tommaso Ciampa, was that fact right there, was that X factor right there. We knew that Gunther did not need Imperium to help retain the title. He's not Roman Reigns. Let's just be real on that. Gunther is not like Roman Reigns unless if he knows that he's outmatched. If he knows that he's outmatched, then yeah, you know what, then yeah, he will use Imperium. But with Roman, it's different, because we know Roman Reigns will use the bloodline anytime to try to win. That's not a champion. That's not a champion. That's just a title holder. Whereas opposed to someone like Drew McIntyre, we all know he's a real champion. But Gunther was actually a hell of a champion, going up against guys like Tommaso Ciampa, guys like Tyler Bate. It's pretty awesome. But this matchup was basically worlds colliding. You know, NXT meeting NXT UK, and it was a battle to see who wanted it more. Was it Gunther or was it Ciampa? And apparently Gunther wanted it. Even though Ciampa wanted to be champion again, his time had not come. In fact, his time did not come until, was it the first NXT 2.0 show last year? Right around the time last year, actually. Excuse me. And this one was basically a chop fest. Ciampa used chops on Gunther. Gunther used chops on Tommaso Ciampa. But Gunther ended up picking up the victory, which was a hell of a match. I think Dave Meltzer of the Wrestling Observer, big shout out, no copyrights as always, but he gave that matchup, I think, 3.5 stars if I remember correctly. But still, I have to admit, it was actually not too bad, not too bad of a matchup. But next up, since we're on the topic of NXT TakeOver, later on that year, last year, Gunther was given a chance to end his rivalry with Ilya Dragonov at NXT TakeOver 36, which brings us to number 8. Walter versus Ilya Dragonov at TakeOver 36 for the NXT UK title. This was Ilya's last opportunity to become NXT UK champion. Otherwise, we would never hear the end of it from... excuse me. God, I'm so tired. Otherwise, Ilya would probably never get another shot at the NXT UK title again. And this was a very hard-hitting matchup. If you guys thought that their first encounter was hard-hitting, this one basically took the cake. It was just horrifying. it was a horrifying matchup that in their first encounter. But this one was probably just as horrifying, just because of the fact that Dragonov was going to do whatever it took to become NXT UK champion, and he actually pulled it off. Excuse me. He became the first man in NXT UK history to pin or make Gunther submit, which was insane. It was absolutely insane. And this started probably I believe this made Dragonov, I believe, the third longest reigning NXT UK champion in history. I think Tyler Bate became the fourth longest reigning champion. In fact, he only held the title for only a couple months until Pete Dunne took it from him. But I gotta admit, I gotta admit, even though Dragonov ended up having to give up the title due to injury, I can definitely see him competing in NXT 2.0 at some point once he's recovered from injury. I can definitely see that happening, but it depends on what he wants to do. Does he want to compete on NXT, or does he want to just jump ship over to Raw or SmackDown and try to win a championship there? But that's on him. That's on Dragonov. But this matchup, if you guys did not watch Takeover 36, I recommend you watch it. It was insane. But continuing on the train of NXT takeovers, coming in at number 7 is Pete Dunne versus Joe Coffey for said NXT UK title at NXT UK Takeover Blackpool 1, the first takeover for NXT UK. And it's interesting because Takeover Blackpool 1 was probably one of the most interesting cards on for NXT UK. In fact, I actually want to Takeover Blackpool. Here we are. Yeah, I know that I mentioned NXT UK Takeover Blackpool in the previous top 10 video, but I got to admit this was an interesting one because the main event was actually Pete Dunne versus Joe Coffey for the title, and this was probably by far one of the one of the most unique close call matches I'd ever seen ever, because Dunn had performed the bitter end on Coffey, and he got a near fall. He performed a discus clothesline, which he calls all the best for the bells, which is Scottish for I believe it's Scottish for Happy New Year. Let me see. I want to see. Scottish. Oh, Gaelic. Okay. So I believe it would be Gaelic. Let's see. Nope, that ain't it. Let's see. Let's see. Let's see. Here we are. Maybe this might help. Sorry, guys. I know I'm taking a while. I guess not. I don't know. Let's see. Hang on, guys. I believe it's I believe it's supposed to be Scottish for all the best for the bells, but Dunn ended up kicking out. A second, all our best for the bells, and then a third one, all of them near fall, and then it just got and just went back and forth, and then of course. And then of course a triangle, and then of course Dunn performed a triangle and snaps the fingers on Coffey to retain his title, and then Gunther ended up making his debut to end the show. But the rest of the card, featured Toni Storm and Rhea Ripley, which I talked about in the previous top 10 video. Dave Massive and of course and Eddie Dennis. Finn Balor versus Jordan Devlin. The Grizzly Young Veterans and Mustache Mountain. It was a pretty interesting card to say the very least. But Joe Coffey, with that match, Joe Coffey proved he deserves to be champion. He has a right to be champion, but it wasn't his time. And when you look at his match with Walter, with his match with Gunther the previous the following year at Takeover Blackpool 2, that card, it was just insane. Absolutely insane. One thing that boggled my mind was the fact that the card was absolutely insane. We had Joseph Connors versus A-Kid. Dave Massive versus Cassius Ohno, who is no longer with WWE. He's actually a producer for Ring of Honor, which is pretty crazy. Eddie Dennis versus Trent Seven, Kaylee Ray, Toni Storm, and of course Piper Niven. Tyler Bate and Jordan Devlin, and then of course we had a fatal 4-way ladder match for the NXT UK Tag Team titles, which was between Gallus, Imperium, the Grizzly Young Veterans, and Subculture, and then of course Gunther and Joe Coffey, which was a pretty crazy. It was a pretty crazy. Pretty crazy card, I'd have to admit. But you look at this card, right, and you think, okay, I mean, it's pretty good, right? The only two matches that made this card look good were literally the co-main events: the NXT UK title, the both the tag titles and the NXT UK title. And yeah, that was just it. But this matchup, Dunn and Coffey, literally, in my opinion, saved that whole card, in my personal opinion. But we do have to move on to number 6, which is Pete Dunne versus Johnny Gargano on NXT November 22nd, 2017. This was a rather unique night because, let's see. November 22nd, 2017. So this was a rather this was interesting because when you look at this night, this was a rather interesting night because this was, I believe, post War Games, post Takeover War Games, and I think Dunn was still, let's see, they still had, yeah, so the two matches that were on the card for that night were just Ruby Riott and Sonya Deville, and then of course Pete Dunne and Johnny Gargano, which lasted only 10 minutes, which is pretty crazy. But the thing about this night was the fact that this was basically post War Games. So War Games that night, I believe, was let's see. Took place November 18th, 2017. Yeah, so I believe this one was the first War Games takeover in history, which I believe the matches were, yeah, I thought so. It was Drew McIntyre versus Andrade, Sanity, The Undisputed Era, and The Authors of Pain with Roderick Strong, Kairi Sane, Peyton Royce, Ember Moon, and Nikki Cross, Aleister Black and the Velveteen Dream, and Cassius Ohno and Lars Sullivan, which was a pretty crazy matchup, just to say the very least, I must admit. But yeah, again, this matchup took place not too long after Takeover War Games. This basically was the match that made Johnny Gargano, worthy of attempting to become NXT UK champion, and although he did come close to winning the title, it proved that he had the capable skills to be a world champion in WWE, whether it was on Raw, on SmackDown, NXT, or even NXT UK, for all we know. Johnny Gargano proves it. In fact, he proves it every single time he competes in the ring, which we found out this Monday on Raw. He'll be competing in his first match in WWE in 9 months. And his last match was actually War Games, funny enough. But we gotta move on to number 5. We are halfway there. With this one, you would think it would have been the last match in NXT UK history, which was the finals of the NXT UK tournament, but nope. It was actually their first encounter. Tyler Bate, Trent Seven, February 15th, 2017. This actually took place about 9 months prior. This actually took place 9 months prior to the Dunn Gargano match, and this was basically Mustache Mount, a battle of Mustache Mountain. Who was the better man? This had nothing to. Even though the title was on the line, it was a battle to see who was the better man. Was it Pete Dunne or was it Trent Seven? And sorry, not Pete Dunne. Tyler Bate. I need to repeat that to myself so I know. A battle to see who was better, Tyler Bate or Trent Seven. I know I said Pete Dunne. I apologize. I'm stupid. Anyway. Anyway. But yeah, Bate and Seven were literally brothers. Sorry guys, I bumped my desk. Anyway, this was a battle to see who was better. Was it Tyler Bate or Trent Seven? And this match basically proved that Tyler Bate was indeed the better man. Dunn ended up taking the title from Tyler Bate at Takeover Chicago, and it was that matchup was actually pretty nutty, but it wasn't as nutty as this next one that I'm going to talk about, which brings us to number 4. Walter, Tyler Bate, NXT UK Takeover, Cardiff. There were only 3 takeovers in NXT UK history. Blackpool 1, Cardiff, and Blackpool 2. We were originally supposed to have had Takeover Dublin in right around after WrestleMania in 2020, but because of the COVID-19 pandemic, keep bumping my desk. But because of the COVID-19 pandemic, it was pushed back to the summer, thinking that we were gonna it was gonna lift up. It never lifted up, so WWE basically just scrapped it, and we never got that takeover ever. But I feel like if NXT UK did have a takeover, it could have been Takeover London, and it would have taken place inside the O2 Arena in London, which would have made more sense to have their last NXT show actually be Takeover London, which would have made more sense. But it is what it is. This was basically Imperium versus British Strong Style. Walter, fucking Tyler Bate. This dude, Tyler Bate, brought it. He brought the fight to Walter. But even with the fans, chanting, chanting, Tyler Bate, Tyler Bate, Tyler Bate. Nothing. Walter hit him with a massive clothesline, turned him inside out. 1, 2, 3, and it was done. Walter picked up the victory. Even when the fans in Cardiff were singing, Tyler Bate, Tyler Bate, Tyler Bate, na 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 na. Tyler Bate, Tyler Bate, Tyler Bate, Tyler Bate. Nothing. I know. I embarrassed myself by actually doing that. I apologize. I know. I embarrassed myself doing that. I'm a dumbass. Anyway, no. I'm not. No, not really. But even just by doing that, it wasn't enough for Walt. It wasn't enough for Tyler Bate. Walter just picked up the victory. But shoutouts to both of them. They brought. Gunther told Tyler Bate, bring the fight. Woo-hoo! Son of a bitch brought the fight. I can guarantee you that. But we now move on to the final 3, and you guys are wondering, what are the final 3? Coming in at number 3 is Pete Dunne versus Noam Dar on the very first episode of NXT UK. On October 17th, 2018. This was literally one of the most insane. Excuse me. This was actually a very insane. A very interesting card. A very very interesting night, because you look at Hang on, guys. There we go. Takeover New York. Anyway, this was actually this was the very first episode of NXT UK, and what boggled my mind was the fact that this card was basically NXT UK's jump, start. That this was the start of what was known as a fast rising brand in WWE, and NXT UK over the last 5, 6 years, 7 years, it did not disappoint. It did not disappoint. The last 5, 6 years, NXT UK did not disappoint, and it gave us some of the greatest matches we had ever seen of all time, and this one was actually one of them because Noam Dar had just returned to WWE from injury, and he was still technically a part of the main roster on 205 Live. And when he thought he was being disrespected on 205 Live, not being given opportunities and whatnot, he said, "You know what? Fuck this. I'm not gonna stay here in America anymore. I'm going over to NXT UK where I will be appreciated." And he was, to a sense, but this matchup, this was a close call. This was a very close call. Noam Dar brought the fight to Pete Dunne, but in the end, but of course, in the end, Noam Dar was no match for the bruiser weight, which honestly I was kind of disappointed, because I kind of figured that this match would have lasted a little bit longer, but it is what it is. But we do have to move on to number 2, which is none other than Ilya Dragonov versus Jordan Devlin on NXT UK May 12th, 2022. I believe this was the match that was loser would have to leave NXT UK if my memory serves correctly. So their first encounter was literally earlier on that year, and I gotta look it up. Let's see. May 12th, 2022. Let's see. Here we are, NXT UK. This should help me out. So if I remember correctly, with this episode of NXT UK, we had yeah, I was right. It was a loser would leave. I was right. It was the match that loser would have to leave NXT UK, and it was interesting because the matches that were on the card, we had Ashton Smith and Oliver Carter taking on Gallus on Gallus's Mark and Joe Coffey. We had Ivy Nile taking on Nina Samuels, and then of course the main event, which was absolutely insane. Their first encounter, I believe, was was an empty arena match where Dragonov picked up a massive victory over Jordan Devlin. This time was no different. This one, they were going to do whatever the hell it took to not only be champion, but to make the loser leave NXT UK. Jordan Devlin ended up becoming the unfortunate soul to leave NXT UK, and he ended up jump shipping over to NXT literally just months later, just literally a few months later after that. And I have to admit, Jordan Devlin, now known as JD McDonough, I gotta say, he's gotten a lot better in the ring in NXT than he did when he was on NXT UK. So this matchup, absolutely insane. I think Dave Meltzer gave this one 4 stars. But we now move on to the final pick, the number 1 spot. And you guys are wondering, what is the number 1 spot? And I know I took a while doing. I know that this one is taken like, I'd say almost 40 minutes, but I wanted to take my time with this one a little bit, just so we could remember, you know, some of the most incredible moments in NXT UK history. But you guys are wondering, what is the number 1 pick, the number 1 spot? Pete Dunne versus Walter, NXT Takeover New York in 2019. This was literally one of the biggest NXT takeovers in history because of the card. We had the Viking Raiders versus Aleister Black and Ricochet for the NXT Tag Teams house, which was Black and Ricochet's last match in NXT before they were able to jump ship over to the main roster and did their own thing there. And funny thing is that WWE had actually pinned Ricochet and Aleister Black together as a team. Not only on the main roster, but as part of the annual Dusty Rhodes Tag Team Classic, which they ended up winning the whole thing, earning the right to face the Viking Raiders at TakeOver New York, which not only kicked off the whole card, but was basically one of the biggest, literally one of the most incredible matches in NXT Tag Team division history. And even though the Viking Raiders won, the respect was there. The respect was there. The other matches we had were, come on, don't trifle with me. Okay, you're gonna trifle with me. You will trifle with me. No more, thank you. The other matches that were on the card, we had the Velveteen Dream versus Matt Riddle. Obviously, the aforementioned Pete Dunne and Walter, Shayna Baszler, Io Shirai, Bianca Belair, and Kairi Sane taking on, or I guess in a fatal 4-way for the women's title. And then, of course, Johnny Gargano versus Adam Cole in a 2 out of 3 falls match where the winner would become the new NXT champion. Champa had to give it up because of his injury. Dunn and Walter and Gargano and Cole were the 2 matches that saved the whole card completely. Dream and Riddle, it was okay. I mean, yes, it was for the North American title. It just did not live up to its own expectations. The tag team title match was pretty decent. The women's title was just bland, but the NXT title also took home the gold as well. Dunn and Walter literally tore the house down with their matchup. It was near fall after near fall, chop after chop, bitter rant after bitter rant, powerbomb after powerbomb. But all it took was a massive powerbomb and a splash for Walter to beat Pete Dunne and become NXT UK champion, which started a historic run for the Ring General. And I have to admit, it was a really good match. It was a match to showcase to the fans in the US what British wrestling, what European wrestling was all about, and they did not disappoint. So that is going to do it for this top 10 video. That brings me to the question of the day. Which match do you think should have been in this top 10 video? Let me know down in the comments below, and that will do it for today's video. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. If you did, make sure you guys smash that thumbs up button. If you guys are new to the channel and you guys want more top 10 videos in the future, make sure you guys subscribe to the channel and turn on the notification bell so you guys do not miss out on any new content that comes your way. And as always, make sure you guys check me out on my social media. Links will be in the description below, as will the info to my fan mail. It will also be in the description as well. And on that, this is your boy Nash, signing out.